naming my next child do something.
Something dev related.
I mean, what do we have? I mean, it's like my surname is A, starts with A. So we have like what?
I don't know. So for context, anybody that's listening in on the stream, we're talking about naming kids developer related things. So Nicholas, is it your son you said that has a J and then your last name is S initials?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So
Actually, my first son,
JavaScript.
exactly. My first son is Adam,
Okay.
and it is AS. I don't know, maybe Astro.
Astro, there you go. I'm
Astro.
a big fan of Astro. Yeah.
So Astro and JS
Nice.
from my side.
And then we talked about beforehand, our daughter will be named Jamie, which is she's coming next week. And that'll be JQ. So our daughter will be jQuery, which is not the most exciting thing for modern times.
Oh, we can argue on that. Actually, we can argue. Come on, MDB was about jQuery for a very long time, and if you look at the numbers, I mean, jQuery, I feel like it's not going anywhere. Obviously, no one is
very popular.
Yeah, I mean, no one is using this for the new projects, but I mean,
lots of existing.
But in fact, in many projects, we also in our UI kit, MDB UI kit, we also support jQuery still because it is still necessary for our customers.
And that's I think that's one of the interesting things. Like, this is not the specific topic of today, but like a lot of us watch YouTube videos, we watch people on Twitter, we see the latest and greatest technologies, and I'm certainly biased because as a content creator, I have full flexibility to go out and try new things and not worry about real production applications. But the reality is the technologies don't change that often. So I've talked a lot on the stream and podcast about like WordPress. I don't remember the number, but WordPress makes up like 40% of websites or something.
It's not more.
I mean, maybe 60 something. It's kind of wild. Yeah. jQuery is still super popular. But to your point, like if someone's building something new, they're probably not using jQuery. They're probably using React or another modern framework.
That's really true, especially from our perspective, when we are building some sort of libraries or frameworks or whatever you want to call it, and obviously we want to develop it, right? And we are releasing new versions, adding new features and all this stuff. So it came as a surprise to me that there was a survey where about 65% of companies said that they are actually willing to pay you so they don't have to update, right? They don't have to migrate to something new because it costs a lot of budget. And before I've been doing what I'm doing right now at MDB and Tailwind Elements, I used to work as a IT consultant, right? So I would be working for the huge corporates and all this stuff. And I remember I was on the project for one of the biggest European bank, and we were about to start brand new project, this new sexy project, new technologies, like you said, and it's like everything was super cool. It was about sending money over the Facebook, now it's it's kind of obvious, but back in 2012 or something, it was like brand new.
A big deal, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, imagine that they came and say, "Hey guys, we have to cancel this project." And what was shocking was actually the reason behind, and the reason was that Windows was actually rolling out support for one of the system, I don't know, XP or something like that, right? And they realized they have like thousands of machines which are still running XP,
and they had
all of a sudden the whole budget, which was like a couple of billions euro, was like just redirected from this brand new shiny project just to update Windows to newer versions. Like,
it's really wild. And that story is like, I've heard about that with Windows OSs. I've heard about that with like when AngularJS people loved, and then the switch to Angular 2+ was a totally different thing that a lot of people weren't ready for. So they either like really wanted to dig their heels in and stay with AngularJS, or a lot of people went to like other frameworks at that point, because that was when React was becoming kind of a go-to option for people as well. So anyway, yeah, it's totally true. And it's interesting to see like the trends of the industry, but also for people who especially aren't far into your career or aren't into your development career, just know that like the things that you see on Twitter are fun. They are exciting. I love them, but it's not necessarily the things that you'll be doing, especially early on in your roles.
That's totally true.
We've got a bunch of people listening in. So hello, everyone. Welcome. We got people from across the world. I saw Pakistan. I saw Denver, which is here in the United States. So welcome. We're going to be talking about Tailwind Elements, which I'm super excited about. So I'm a big Tailwind user, which is probably not like a big surprise for me to be doing this stream with you all. But I'm a huge fan. I use Tailwind for every project that I create from scratch. I don't know if you've seen this, but now the new Next.js, if you create a new Next.js project, they actually have a prompt. Are you using Tailwind? Which is like, there's lots of different options you can use. So for them to have that as like the default, are you using Tailwind, is really pretty incredible, I think, to like the extent of how amazing Tailwind is. Anyway, so one question for the audience. I'm curious, how many people are using Tailwind? And let me know like your experience, love it, hate it. Just let me know in the comments. And then what we're going to talk about today is Tailwind Elements, which is getting into kind of a component library for Tailwind. And maybe you can talk about this or maybe not. Like, this reminds me of the Bootstrap era, but now in a Tailwind way. Maybe that's like specifically on brand, or maybe you want to clarify. But anyway, welcome to the stream, both David and Nicholas. Do you want to introduce yourself, tell people a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into MDB, which you've got like perfect branding and stuff. I'm jealous. I want one of those like LED light things. And then get into Tailwind Elements. But David, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Sure. Thanks for having us, James. I really appreciate it. Hi, I'm David, and as you can see, I'm all branded with MDB because this is what I've been busy since 2016. So as I mentioned before, I was working as an IT consultant before, so I was like, doing this corporate job for big companies. And one day I just got a call from the friend of mine from high school, and he asked me like, "Hey, do you want to do a startup with me?" And I said, "Hey, why not? Let's give it a try." So this is like a very long story short, and that's how we came up with this idea of MDB. So that's what we started doing, and it was a really amazing journey for us, starting from scratch, starting from building something very ugly, very naughty. And it's like, it was really crazy time. But now over the period of what it is, 7 years now, right? I mean, we came up with the idea with the stable product. So basically, while Tailwind Element is a quite new project, and we're going to talk about it today, we have the other one, which is MDB, and it's cool that you mentioned Bootstrap, because that's how it all started. MDB stands for Material Design for Bootstrap. So we kind of combined these two concepts, and it's been there. It's been used by more than 3 million people these days. So yeah, I mean, so we've been into this open source thing for a couple of years now, and obviously, we couldn't miss Tailwind with all the fuss around it. So that's me.
Love it. Again, like doing a good job keeping up with the times and the energy behind Tailwind. I love it. Nicholas, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Nicholas, it's my international name. Actually, I'm Mikołaj. It's on my local name, a Polish name. I work in MDB with this project for about 5 years, and I was the team leader of Tailwind Elements development team, which was responsible for the Tailwind Elements UI kit, which we want to describe today.
Cool. All right. This is not the target of this conversation, but I am curious because we got a little bit of conversation. Scion in the chat asked if you can use Tailwind with Svelte. Yes, you can use Tailwind with anything that you want to. It's just like you can import CSS through a regular CSS like link tag if you want to, and use the classes. And there's better ways to do it, but you can't do it anywhere. So quick question for you two. What is your favorite framework? Do you have a favorite front-end framework?
That's a tricky question, to be honest. I feel like I don't have one, and I think we're going to talk about it a little later on. I want to think about it as a tools, right? And just like we discussed, So let me ask you a question, James. I mean, how do you think? How many web pages are there, like over the world? Like, just
how many websites in general?
Yeah, I mean, like the order of magnitude. Just shoot number, like order of magnitude.
Oh gosh, I wouldn't even know how to begin with that. 20 million. I literally have no idea.
Okay, so I feel expert in this area because I was writing my thesis last year. 5 years later, I was supposed to do it anyway. But so briefly, I mean, at the moment when I was writing about it, it was about 1.7 billion. So we are talking about 9 euros. Somewhere up to 2 billion web pages, right? And then again, there are briefly 2,500,000 page created every day, up to 500. Again, obviously this is a rough idea, which means that every second there's like about 3 to 7 new pages. So by the time we're gonna finish our stream, there will be briefly about 10,000 new web pages. Right? So,
that's a great call out.
So let me not to answer your question, because I feel I don't have the fair one, and I think this is a really good example because we are doing Bootstrap, which is supposed to be a component based. However, it has a lot of utilities as well, which people don't really that they are. I feel like they are not aware of it. And then we have a Tailwind, which is like utility first, and I know there's a lot of discussion, and we are just doing both because we feel it's just like it's about two. I know about you, Mikołaj. Do you have any favorite one? Except, okay, I know the answer. Sorry.
Actually, I'm maybe from this time, yes. But actually, I'm also a Vue.js developer, and I love Vue for its directives, for its templates, for the new composition API, for the new version of Vue, and also I love Nuxt with its server-side rendering.
Love it. Makes total sense. I still have almost never used Vue, but I know like Vue is one of those communities where if you're a big fan of Vue, like you're much more outspoken than I think React developers are. Like people who are a fan of Vue are bigger fans of Vue than they are of React, for example. But I'm a SvelteKit person myself. That's been my favorite to work with, but I do a lot with React and Next.js, for example, as well. Anyway.
I feel there's a beauty, right? I mean, there's beauty in it that you can pretty much do the same project with, so many different tools. This is the beauty of these times.
Yep, absolutely. So you gave a quick intro to MDB. What about introducing the topic of Tailwind Elements, and maybe also addressing calling out some of the issues that people have with Tailwind? Like one is that it gives you all these utility-based classes, which means it bloats your HTML. So you have like all these classes that you can use all over the place. It makes your markup really big. And I think consistency is one of the things potentially that people struggle with, is like, because you have all of these options with classes, you kind of mix them in and maybe you're not thinking about exactly like, am I doing this in a way that makes sense, that's consistent through my site? So give us an idea of what Tailwind Elements is and what are some of the problems that it solves. And I will throw a link to Tailwind Elements in the chat. So everybody go and check out the website to get a little more additional context for what we're talking about.
Yeah, sure. So basically, I think I'm going to refer back again to that we should apply or use the right tools for the right purpose, right? So even within the Tailwind Elements, I think we're going to show you that later on. Even if you want to start a project using Tailwind or Tailwind Elements, you will have multiple options to kick off the project. Right? So if you want to just prototype something, probably the easiest will be go to CDN and then just do something quickly, which might be not the best solution if you want to build the proper app for it. Yeah, I mean, we are having this discussion with Mikołaj just before the stream, that it's funny and that there are a lot of discussion that you have all these classes, but then you can have one button which has like 50 classes, and then you have 2 or 5 buttons on the same page, so which looks kind of ridiculous. So you are supposed to kind of create components. So we are making circles, or we can do apply, but then kind of making classes. I feel again the short answer would be first, we should understand what's our main goal, what's the end game for us, what we're trying to achieve, and then choose the proper tool for that, right? So if you look even when I was switching between MDB and Tailwind, you can see that probably the design is pretty much the same, because we rely on material design, or material minimal, actually what we call it. Yeah, you can achieve exactly the same result using totally different technologies, right? So I wouldn't stick too much to this. Probably for those of you guys who are new to either Bootstrap or Tailwind, or both of them, probably it makes just sense to give a try and feel like which one is better for you. But definitely Tailwind is having momentum. Like you just said, Next has this option that you can start the project with Tailwind, and they still didn't fix the export issue, right? I mean, that's ridiculous to me that Tailwind is working and export doesn't work, which is kind of a crucial thing when you're building the app. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna show you a small demo how it is to use the Tailwind Elements components, but we feel that again there should be some sort of balance. So we are also trying to encapsulate those components and use them like you would be them in React or Vue with props. So give you some sort of control of what is the most important, and don't bother you with the details, which are not necessarily important at this moment.
I totally agree. Building your application with Bootstrap and scaling this application, then if you scale the application, then you go to the point where you think maybe I should override some rules. Yes, I have my class, for example, drop-down class, card. I have my component. It's an abstract class, and you have some rules aggregated inside. Yes, nested inside this class, and at some point you discover that you actually don't use Bootstrap, but you override it to achieve your project's target. So it's a point that you think maybe there is something better, and you discover Tailwind, which is with its atomic CSS. So when you write HTML code and then use classes, which names are relied on the rows from CSS, on rules from CSS, and everything is clear. But again, when you scale your application, you think it's a mess. Yes, I have 3 different buttons, lots of classes, and then what is cleaner now? Nothing. So you think maybe I should encapsulate it somewhere, maybe inside a component. In my opinion, the best component will be a Vue component, of course.
Shout out to Vue.
Maybe use a framework, for example, Vue, and encapsulate this button inside a component. Yes.
And if we do step back actually to it, if you look at the Tailwind Elements or MDB, actually the whole idea behind it when we started this was to, there is a certain way of creating apps or websites where you would call designer to make, some designs, and then now it's changing. You have a Figma, but before you would have like Photoshop and then someone to make you the design layout and cut it into HTML and all this stuff. And we kind of tried to challenge this let's call it status quo, where we said, hey guys, how about instead of doing this 2 or 3 steps, how about we just do 1 step? So where you get when you get the library like MDB or any other UI kit, and you just combine what you like, and then at the end you realize that you have a totally working front end, right? So you can just go and choose most common components which are there. You can have some navigation bar. You need navigation bar. You just search for it, and then you copy paste, and you are good to go. Obviously, you just need to adjust the elements inside. Then you can get some headers, and then you combine it with some cards, which you can find in components section. And then all of a sudden, you realize that within, 15 minutes, you just have your blog or whatever page already. So this is where we are coming from, and that's why I think it was kind of a success, if I can call it this way. But even then, we realized that people were kind of misusing it, right? Because if you do project like MDB, it's a whole library, right? So for the sake of simplicity, again, we give you the bunch of a lot of different components, but you don't need them, right? So what people were doing, they were importing all of them because it was easy for them to prototype with it. But then your performance would suffer. So this is actually why in Tailwind we went even a step further, because obviously Tailwind is doing a really great job with purging CSS classes, but we wanted to apply the same for JS. So we also applied the tree shaking mechanism to it. So then again, right? I mean, if you are starting, if you want to prototype something, you can do it even in the browser, because we have those called design blocks, which are over here. And then if you click on the, I think you're not gonna see this. Let me quickly, because it's a different tab. So it will open you this online editor where you can just quickly prototype something and send it to someone else. which is like obviously the quickest version. And if you want to do build a proper project, which is gonna be, you need to scale it up. It need to be blazing fast. Then you do it in the proper way. So you set up this in a way that supports this tree shaking and push CSS and all that stuff. So again, I'm just coming back to the original idea that we should be using the right tools for the right means. So I think we can jump actually to the code and give it floor to Mikołaj, so he could basically guide us kind of a step-by-step how this development could looks like when you use it. And yeah, what I'm trying to say is that with every tool, you can just kind of misuse it, or you can really nail it and make best out of it.
It's funny that you say the misuse. Someone commented on, I think, a short that I put on TikTok or YouTube, I can't remember, and they were talking about TypeScript, because I made a joke about like a JavaScript developer trying to use TypeScript and just using any everywhere as a joke. And they were like, this is why TypeScript is never going to be a great language, because blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you can mess up any language or tool or frame. Like, you can use it in a bad way wherever you are. It's not that it's like TypeScript's fault specifically. One question for me that I'm curious about. There you go. All right, wait, you froze.
I froze.
I think camera died and then froze, I think. But one, can you hear we're having work done on our house. I didn't know they were going to be making noise. One question I have with the tree shaking. So Tailwind automatically is kind of doing tree shaking equivalent for the CSS. And you're talking about on the JavaScript side. What are just like one or two like real quick examples of JavaScript being incorporated in this? Like what are some of the functionalities that causes JavaScript to be a part of this whole thing?
We have a couple of components that let's say it's not a light UI kit. We have some components that are more advanced that need JavaScript. For example, we have date picker, time picker. The components that show after clicking a toggler inside input, they show, for example, a dialog, and then a calendar. You can pick, for example, date or time, something like this.
Cool. That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
I think this is the whole idea here is like, like with MDB, which was, Bootstrap is great. I mean, it was great. It was like the real revolutionary thing back in the days, right? It was exactly at the point when the traffic from, from the mobile and the desktop was just like crossing, right? So they started when more people were using like desktops, and they exactly nailed it because they were at the moment where more people start using mobile phones, and they were mobile first. So it was a great tool, but what we sometimes call MDB is like Bootstrap on steroids. So we just because we start using it for our internal purposes, we realize that okay, that's cool, but we are missing this. We have to customize it, or we have to create a sample, some custom code for it. So that's how we came up with this idea. Based on basically usage and thousands of different websites, like what are the most common components which people actually use or need, and that we're trying to apply exactly the same to the Tailwind, right? So you will have probably most of the components which are good enough to build probably any website you need. I'm not talking about very specialized one, but I think we're gonna show you also how does it works in the real world when we're gonna initialize the project with the most easy way, and then we're gonna do this kind of tree shaking to compare the results before and after. So I would give the floor to Mikołaj, so he could share his screen and do the magic around it.
Cool. One question that I'll come back to it so we can get into the demo is around the hosting part. So we'll make sure to address that, like the hosting capabilities inside of the platform. So we can circle back to that in a few minutes.
It will be a final part.
Yeah, if you want, you can cover right away, or can do it at the end, because I think Mikołaj, you're also gonna show that, right? So let's wait for it.
So we'll get that hands-on. Awesome. Continue.
Okay, we have a quick start guide in our documentation. There are several ways of installing the Tailwind Elements. Here we have the first one, recommended one is npm. It is also the universal one but sometimes it requires some adjustments depending on the bundle that developer use. Another way is the one that we talked about it. It is MDB Go, which is our ecosystem that enables an option to create, deploy, and host a Tailwind element project on our servers. However, it requires installation of our CLI, MDB CLI, and also requires having account and logging to this account before starting. In fact, the starter that we provide via MDB Go, it's a Vite starter. It's a modern front-end tooling with native ECMAScript module support. And this moment, I will say it is the most recommended way to use the full potential of our Tailwind elements, because first of all, it is very fast. It uses ECMAScript modules, which gives us an option to optimize the bundle size. So, as David said, we have the push CSS for optimizing CSS classes. So for removing CSS classes that are not available in the project. And also we have tree shaking for JS that gives us an option to remove modules that we don't need from our library. Here are some steps that has to be done while creating the new project with Vite. It will be actually it's just a simple command for creating a Vite application, then installing Tailwind with dependencies that are necessary for it, then configuring Tailwind, and finally installing Tailwind elements. I will focus on the advantages of our Tailwind elements UI kit. So I just prepared before the stream. I prepared the starter that is based on this configuration, and now we can clone this starter and begin to code using our Tailwind elements UI kit. So now I will just clone the repository.
And for the Vite starter, is this a Vite starter like for a specific framework like React or Vue, or is this? I've actually never used Vite without it being associated with a framework.
Yeah, so this is actually not associated to any framework. This is actually these are two important information which actually we should probably start with our call today. So Tailwind Elements is work in progress. It's a beta version at that moment. So it's like fully open source, like all components are available for everyone. And so therefore, whoever will be watching this stream, like, in a couple of months, it may look a little bit different. Installation might be a little bit different. So I just suggest to always refer to the starting guide. And to your question, we are working now. We are finalizing the just like pure vanilla JS version.
Okay.
But React and Vue and Angular version are coming afterwards. It's the same like with MDB. So with MDB comes with like 4 flavors. So you have a vanilla, and then you have Angular, React, Vue. So for now we'll be just working with the JS, and then at the end of the day, if anyone here would like to contribute and speed up like React, Vue, or Angular development, feel free. At the end of the day, at the end of the stream, Michael will show you how to contribute. Where is the repo? Cool. and that will be awesome.
Yeah, perfect. I love if anyone really needs a certain framework, you can contribute and help us get there faster. Sion in the chat is asking a couple of questions. So I didn't realize this, but on the Tailwind homepage, they have a components page. So these are just components that were created by the makers of Tailwind CSS. I actually just realized it redirects you to Tailwind UI, which is a completely separate set of components, completely separate product. This is also a component kit, but I think has like other features and things that we'll talk about that make it a pretty interesting options. So I think we'll get like more deeper into some of those specific answers as we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And like we just discussed, we also added JS to it, so it's not pure Tailwind.
Yep. And it's interesting because that's one of the things that I still find myself having to do, right? Like a hamburger button menu, I've had to go and add the logic in my applications, even if I rip it off. But like take the design from somewhere, I still have to go and add the actual JavaScript part. So that sort of stuff bundled together is gonna be pretty nice.
Mikołaj, to you.
Okay, what I have done now, it was just cloning the repository, installing dependencies, and starting the application. It is actually npm start. It is command that we use in most of our projects. We could use the command npm run dev as well. So now we have our welcome screen, and actually we are ready to copy components from our documentation to this application. Let's take sample buttons at first. Okay, we talked a little bit about JS. For example, we could have a standard version of button that has just, for example, focus or active states. But if you want the, let's say, more advanced version of button, we could take this with ripple effect. And now, in fact, we will want to, we need to have additional JS script for this effect to work. So now we just copy the component to our index HTML.
So actually, this ripple effect comes from material design. For those of you who might be not familiar, right? So back in the days when we combined material design and Bootstrap, we were like, hey, material design, Google, perfect. Bootstrap, Twitter, like everyone knows that if you combine it, you can't go wrong with it. So at least that's what we hope.
I mean, it got so big and still is. I think like I would imagine that's a fairly safe bet to depend on.
Yeah, definitely. And as you said, this is. I feel like there is always kind of a trade-off, right? Because if you go with the UI kit, you kind of you have certain range of variety of options, but I mean, design is kind of a settled. You can do theming, you can adjust it, but on the other hand, you are developing much faster. And then again, I think like if Google is using that I think it's a safe bet.
Absolutely. So you've already copied this into the code, copy that button code in?
Whoops.
Once again.
Yeah, I think you're frozen for
Once
a second,
again,
Nicola.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, you were lost for a second.
Okay.
So
now it's okay.
You copied the button. So if you could show us the.
Okay, here's just a simple button effect, and now I'm moving forward to components. Let's take, for example, cart with this effect. Here we have the code. Just copy the code. It's pretty simple code, and I can see in the application we can also add some classes to display margin between already working button with card. Inside card we have also a button with ripple effect, so it is. I assume it is. It shows that this design is consistent. And now maybe let's take something more advanced. We will search for example, input.
Yeah, so these are usually the
Also
things
the same.
which usually feels like they don't require JS, right? But as soon as you start doing some input things, or we want to do validation or whatever, you quickly realize that that you need it, right? We realized that, so that's why we decided actually. We have a really heavy discussion on how much should we stick to Tailwind way of doing this. But we quickly realized that, as you said, I mean, sooner or later you're gonna need it. You're gonna have to do something with JS. Mikołaj?
Yeah, and actually, we have here simple components, but for example, button requires ripple effect. Card also requires ripple effect. And now here's the input, which has the option to prepare a notch for a border, which also is hard to achieve without. Actually, it's not achievable with only CSS. So we had to add some JS to achieve this, and also to keep input transparency, so that we can, for example, remove dark mode here and change it to light mode, and also the transparency will stay with input. And now I will copy some advanced components.
And while you're copying those, there's a question in the chat that I believe I know the answer to from Scion, asking if all these components are free. And I believe like all the components that are listed there now are free for people to come use, copy into projects, and build around.
Absolutely, it's open source, so you guys feel free to use it. Yeah, that's. No, that's a beauty of open source, right? I mean, this is the beauty of the. I feel like if you look at what Bootstrap did, right? I mean, they could easily commercialize it, right? But we wouldn't have so much progress without that, right? And we got so much, from the community as well. No, I love one of the comments, by the way. I can finally make my absolute good. And I think this is our typical user, right? So we have a lot of people who really want to code, and just they don't want to struggle with the CSS or designing. They just want to focus on the logic, and I feel like this is what enables them to do it, right? They can just quickly jump into and do it.
It's definitely always been one of my struggles, and I think that's why people gravitated to Bootstrap so quickly, is because it just gave you a lot of the stuff that, as not designers and not great CSS people, like they were able to do so much of it for us. And I think that's been like a trend with just tools in general, whether it's for styling or for backend logic or whatever. Like the more that tools can do for us, so that we can spend time building the components of the stuff that we actually enjoy, the better off we are.
Definitely.
Okay, and now we have here three inputs. It is a time picker, and we can see the advanced functionalities of it. Also, we have date picker, which helps us to choose a date in this input. And now, what we have here is actually only the. For example, let's take date picker. We have only here an input inside and label for it, and some data attributes. Let's describe these data attributes. The first one, it is data TE date picker init, so Tailwind Elements date picker init, and another one is input wrapper init. So if we remove them, then components, then JS will not initialize. So as we can see, it is not working as it should. So it is one of two for initialization. First one is via data attributes, and I think it is similar to what Tailwind is doing. So they moved all the classes from the style CSS file from the style sheet and added to HTML to work to have them inside one file. So we're trying to do something similar by initializing our components via data attributes, without the necessity of changing anything inside JS file if there is no need to. Okay,
and that basically is just like a queue for the JavaScript, right? Like the JavaScript is going through looking for elements that have these certain properties, and if they do, it will go and add the functionality that it needs to. And these are two elements. I mean, time and date pickers. Like, you don't really have a choice as a developer, right? Like, if you want a decent experience for a user, you have to build something yourself because you're probably not going to want to use like the built-in stuff on the browser. Or you go and grab like a component off the shelf, right? Like, this is like, no one's really doing that themselves, are they?
Yeah, that's exactly. And then if you take something, grab something off the shelf, usually if this is just standalone one, it doesn't fit into the design, right?
Into the design. Yeah, exactly.
So that's what we've been discussing before, right? I mean, that sooner or later you're ending up that you have to do it anyway, right? Unless you're doing really static page with no logic whatsoever.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, and also first thing is that we have initialization via data attributes. But another thing is that we can customize this component via data attributes to make things easier. So now we can jump to our documentation API tab, and here are some sections that might be necessary for developers. So how to import the component. We will jump into it in next stage of our live coding, and how to use our components. There are two options, as I said, via data attributes and via JavaScript. And now what I want to show is options that we have in, let's say, there are some of them. It is actually it looks like a simple component, but in fact, when we add some code via JavaScript, so user has no option to customize it because actually he or she doesn't see the code inside HTML file.
Code. Yeah,
it is nested inside JS, so it's injected by JS. So we have to add customization options to do this component to enable personalization. So let's take, for example, disable past boolean, and now if you want to customize the component, then just we are typing data t and then disable past. We have to remember to use kebab case syntax here because it's a data because it's an HTML attribute.
James, I think this is to your question, or what was it from the audience? Like, what's the right amount, right, of having classes or having components? And I feel like this is something in between, right? So with every component, we actually have this round of feedback asking us, like, okay, so what users should be able to change, and what we should like, keep him away from, because it doesn't make sense to expose like literally everything. So I think this is our sweet spot here.
Yeah. I like that. And you touched like even the specific example that you had, data to disable pass, true. That's such a common thing with a date picker, right? Like we all have had to have a date picker and do some sort of JavaScript logic to prevent them from choosing something in the past, because it's a scheduling tool and you can't schedule things in the past, for example. So having those like one line properties in there to add that functionality is really nice. And I've got a question for like the Material Bootstrap version of this. I'm assuming like the components that we're looking at are probably a one-to-one with what the core Material Bootstrap components are. I'm also assuming that like the properties that you've got listed here are kind of a one-to-one to the properties that you had from the library with Material Bootstrap. Is that true? Or are these kind of like ports of existing stuff that you've already been working on and done well at for several years?
Yeah. Short answer is yes. The long answer would be that I feel like Tailwind Elements would be even farther because this is our newest child. So obviously it will have the most common case. But yeah, I mean, that was the whole idea, right? So I mean, we are just looking at the numbers, right? And then there are so many people using MDB these days. So I feel like it's really answering the needs which many developers have. So we just tried to port it to Tailwind Elements so we could cover both of it. So basically, yeah, I mean, at least this is our end goal. So whatever is missing, and we were just talking at the very beginning. For example, now we don't have yet templates within Tailwind Elements. We have them in MDB, so that's what we wanna port in very short time, right? So yeah, I mean the answer is yes.
Absolutely, cool. And question in the chat from Sion of where does the JavaScript go? So we maybe kind of breezed past that, but like in this starter project, there was the npm package that got installed, which includes the JavaScript. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Actually, we have the JS inside the index.js file, and it's I want to talk about it a little bit. It's imported here. It's the W elements, and actually we import the UMD file, which was our standard file until we released the latest version beta 2. Because now we have support for AS modules, and in this UMD file there is an auto init. So for each component which has data attributes and for necessary for initiation, the UMD file UMD format will search for these components and initiate them. But we had the issue with optimization of this project because of the auto initiation, the bundle size will be very large because there are lots of modules that we add in our library. So we decided to prepare a new standard for it and to move auto init to separate files and then initialize after importing the component inside the modern bundle, let's say Vite, for example, and then importing the only the components that we need. That finally in our bundle we have only these components that are necessary. But in this case, we will have to initiate them separately.
Yeah. So then again, like we said, so if you want to prototype something, just go with like import everything and play with the design, and once you like it, then we can switch to optimization version and just do the tree shaking and all this stuff, right? So and then again, we hope, and this is our experience so far, and an experience of our users / customers who say that it really speeds up the development, because you're going to go strictly to the point where you can really start focusing on app. It's like especially with this all this startup era these days, when you really have to. And not even with the startups, but even with the huge corporates, like time to market is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So, yeah, there is no time to waste on design that much, right? Unless you are doing really something artistic.
Yep.
I mean, that's me.
Okay, and moving forward, we struggle with a problem in MDB that user didn't have the chance to customize the code that is actually injected via JavaScript. Here in Tailwind, it's even a more problematic case because now because in MDB we had, for example, a class called date picker dialog, and user could customize it in its own style sheet just by overriding some rules. But now in Tailwind, we use Tailwind classes in our, for example, in the template of this dialog of date picker, and there is no way to change its design without customizing those classes, without overriding those classes. So we decided to add another section in our API and add another option for our advanced components, our JS components. This option is to customize classes. So now we are able to use data attribute with class suffix, prefix, sorry, and to pick any class that is injected with the dialog that we could see in our demo. I will choose something that is maybe simple here. So, for example, class for the backdrop. Okay, I have it prepared here. Okay, I do write drop. Oh, it's here. There are lots of, as we can see, there are lots of classes. Copy these classes, and then overwrite and
only me, or we are using
classes
Nicola?
to this element.
Yeah, it's kind of coming.
In this case, it will be date picker
in and out.
So give him a second. Well, I think so. What Nicola is saying basically is that once you come up with this backdrop classes, right, set of classes, right, or like the apply, it's kind of difficult to jump in and edit them. So again, we expose the option to adjust this, the backdrop. If you wanna have it differently than what comes with out of the box from Tailwind Elements, then you can use one of these options, and then you can make your adjustment. So yet again, trying to expose as little as possible, and at the same time give you as much control as possible over the component, and not to bother you with whatever it's needed. Nicholas, are you with us now? Let's see the connection.
Okay, I heard you, but you didn't. So everything is okay now?
Yeah, now it seems like great. It is. Yeah.
I think my
really quickly, I'll throw in a question really quickly from the chat while it's here. Ben is asking, are Tailwind components similar to Material UI components? So just to clarify, because we had a little bit of confusion earlier, on the Tailwind domain, they have a link to a components, which is from Tailwind UI. So that's a completely separate thing. Versus Tailwind Elements, which is talking about today. And this is very heavily related to Material UI components, but it's your own implementation, right? Like you built these based on the idea of material design.
Yeah, I think that basically we both built based on material design, which is like a design language, what Google call it, right? So what these guys did, they just exposed the 20 documents, 20-page document about how to design app, and you can use it in any language. Okay, back to you, Nicholas.
Yeah.
Okay, now I override the date picker backdrop attribute. So now, as you can see, there is it is less transparent than it was. I can change this, for example, to 90. To show that it will be even less transparent than it was by default. So this is the way to customize classes of elements that are injected via JavaScript. Okay, and moving forward, the problem we had was the bundle size of our growing UI kit, because as I said, here we import the let's say elder1 format file, and if I stop the application and run npm run build, we should see the size of the bundled files, and because we have push CSS for our styles, the size of compiled CSS file will not be very large. But yeah, here we even can see the warning that the size of JS file is more than 500 of kilobytes. So we decided to optimize it by creating ECMAScript format of our for our files. As I said, we moved auto inits to separate files, and they are important only on demand, let's say. So now, instead of using the old file, I can remove it. We will just import the components that we want to initial application. So in this case, it will effect for a button card, forms, and the picture.
Sounds like it's cutting out again.
We're losing Nikolai. So let me jump in. So like Nikolai was saying, so now we are getting the full bundle, right? So the idea is to do the tree shaking now. So yeah, Nikolai, I think you can continue, and I will do talking because we can still see your screen.
Yeah,
I believe. So yeah, the whole idea is that now we will just import.
I was talking. I was talking.
Yeah. So then basically we which is not this is not really handy. Or
still coming through like spotty, unfortunately. Like it's just cutting in and out a lot.
Because someone is stealing your connection, I guess. Check if the neighbor
I think
is
it's
not
because of
downloading.
I think it's because of sharing the screen, and my computer is not as fast as as Vite and as our Tailwind Elements.
Nicholas, do you want to? We could try this for a few minutes. Do you want to keep typing, and then David, you could add the commentary?
Yeah,
let's do it this way. But basically, I think we are about.
Let's do. Let's.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just continue.
Sorry, I had to share that comment. Keep going.
Okay, so what Nikolai is essentially doing now, he's just like initializing the inputs which are really necessary, right? The trick here is that obviously you need to know which one is necessary, which is not that obvious always. We try to keep it very clear within the documentation, and we can see that Nicholas is actually building right now. So we should see the new size of the bundle once it finished. Yeah, so now it's down to 155, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the whole idea. Again, coming to the initial assumption, if you wanna prototype very quickly, go the easier way. Design for whatever your product owner, for the team. Once they like it, we can go and really optimize it so it can scale a lot. Yeah, I think that's briefly it. Obviously, I mean, we could go through many different components. Maybe James, if you could switch it to my screen now. So just give our users some sort of idea what else we have here, right? By the way, this entire website is also built within Tailwind Elements, so you can really build the proper apps or website. So all these things which after so many years we realize they're just useful, and sooner or later you're gonna need them. As you can see, there's a handful of different components, starting with very simple like buttons or cards. So the ones which you use very, very often, moving through more, kind of advanced one with the galleries over here. Also, again, like for the simple galleries, you don't need JS, obviously. But then when it comes to carousel, you have to use JS. We have a model functionality, which again, probably I can imagine that this is something which you would use all the time, and all this, kind of a fancy effects over here. Notifications, so kind of aesthetic things. So bunch of different components, which probably should be more than enough to build like, I don't know, 90% of the projects which are there. And as we were saying, we are also going 1 or 2 steps further. So we are also preparing the design blocks. You know, like the entire contact section, so you don't have to deal with, you know, the flexbox stuff, just ready to use. And then if you want to use it, just, you know, you can just navigate to one of these snippets, and you will have the playground, so you could play with it and change, adjust like live. And finally, coming soon, which are Angular, React, Vue, as well as templates part. So since it's not here, let me just quickly move to MDB. As we discussed, we are aiming to actually have all this recreated with Tailwind Elements. So all this will be probably coming soon, very soon, to Tailwind Elements. So you don't even have to start from scratch. You can just jump. You just grab the template and then just simply, you know, adjust it to your needs. I think the last thing, which there was a question about the hosting. So Nikolai, if you could just share your screen now and do the deployment, and then I will just also quickly brief you about it. So as you, James, said, I mean, there is more to it. I mean, our company is doing a couple of things. So MDB is one thing. We are doing services where we're just building, you know, some software for the companies on demand using different technology. There is Tailwind Element, and one of the project is actually called MDB Go, which is again a free hosting platform. So, you know, there is a free tier where you can have hosting and database like absolutely for free. And then you can have database included. So you can have SQL, MariaDB database, or non-SQL, a MongoDB instance. So you can also use your own custom domain if you want to have one. So yeah, and that's also again, we like most of our products in our company, they are actually coming from our own needs. So we internally build it for ourselves. So we wanted to have something, you know, we have like 30 people working on different projects, and very often we want to you know, we want to share something between each others, and we want to see it live, right? Not like clone the repository and just run it. So we build it for ourselves. So there is a logic behind it. So it's as simple as just one command, which is mdb publish. First, you have to install the CLI with the npm, but once you have it and you have an account with MDB Go, you can just type mdb publish, and it will just upload all the files to the server, and that will just, you know, realize what kind of project it is. It's gonna build it on our end, and then it's gonna deploy you within the free domain. So I think that Nicholas was actually doing this right now. I'm not sure if he's done with it. If he's, then probably we should be able to see.
Yes, I'm working on it. I figured out that once screen and also install dependencies or work with Vite, then my computer is not working. So not initiating.
We can clearly see that Mikołaj is like 100% nerd guy who's just doing coding stuff and not really streaming a lot. So his PC is not really get used to it. Yeah, I mean, so anyway, if anyone is interested, maybe we can just put it. It's called mdbgo.com, and it's as simple as just you know, installing the npm dependency mdbgo CLI, and once you have it, it will just let you to deploy both front end as well as backend project, because it supports front end and it supports Node.js and PHP as well, plus databases. So yeah, I mean, that's like again, something which we really like to use, and we just wanted to share with the community.
Yeah, it's actually something I was looking through the website as we were talking, and I didn't realize that that you had the front end and back end hosting, which is a big thing to take on. Like, that's not usually, there's a pretty big divide between hosting platforms that do front end versus back end. Like, you have Netlify Vercel, which they have backend capabilities specifically through like serverless. But then to deploy like a regular full node application, you have to go to like Heroku or Render, or DigitalOcean, something like that.
That's true.
So that's really great to have. Yeah.
No, that's true. But we feel like, we are just within this ecosystem. I don't know. We don't. First, we start like a couple of years back. We started just with the MDB, and then we realized, okay, how about we add React? How about we add Vue and Angular? And then once you have, your app, you want to deploy it somewhere. So yeah, I mean, just we are trying to stay within the scope of what we know, what really well, right? So. We are not trying to be, like the marketing specialist. We have no clue about it, but when it comes to development, I think it's
love it.
We know the stuff. That's the thing.
Yeah. There's a question in the chat about Next.js. My guess, based on what you're saying, is that there wouldn't be a direct support for Next.js in terms of full stack capabilities, because it looks like backend is specifically like Node Express and then other things that aren't JavaScript. Do you have a way to support like a Next.js application?
Again, short answer, basically yes. We are going there, but it's not fully ready yet. So that's the goal, obviously, but just like a step by step.
Cool.
So yeah, I mean that's basically it. I know if Nicholas, did you manage to publish it, or it's?
Yeah, now I think I can share the screen because I installed the dependencies. So let's
either installing or
try. Let's give it a last try. Okay, I think now it should be visible. So what I have done, I just initiated the starter via our MDB Go ecosystem, and then copied the code to index.html. Actually, it will be here. So it is the code that we just live coded, let's say. It was not live, actually, I think, but it is the code that we prepared right now. And also I copied the initialization to index.js, and now I should be able to run one command, mdb publish, and it should what it should do. It should build the application and then deploy it on our servers. So let's try.
And
I may have misunderstood the question in the chat, by the way, from Ben. I was thinking he was talking about hosting a Next.js app, but maybe he was talking about documentation for incorporating. So Michael added about the guide for integrating Tailwind Elements with Next.js and the docs.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we have a docs for it, so you can refer to that. Yeah, and while now it's uploading to our servers, and you can see that there's a URL generated within the MDB Go domain, and boom, it's just deployed. It's secure. It's come with SSL, so it's ready to use. And if you want, you can just attach your own domain to it. So I think it's really, really, really handy when it comes to sharing your projects with your team works and all this stuff. Yeah, and then again, obviously, we try to keep this as much open as possible. So there is a free tier when you can deploy project for free, database is free, and so on. Obviously, because if we want to keep it this project up and running, we also have like the higher tiers if someone want to use more extensively that. So if someone would like to try that, then I think that on Twitter we shared the code which allows to test it for 3 months, the higher tier without limits. So if someone is interested, it's also the option. But then again, like the free tier I think is really good enough to start working and sharing very quickly with anyone, and actually building the full stack apps, right? Because you can really do a lot with it, and you can have both, like you just said, like backend and front end together.
Thanks. I am pasting this in, by the way, for people. I just saw that message on Twitter, so now getting to it in the chat. So I'm posting this in here, and this is 3 months for free of the professional hosting tier.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I strongly encourage everyone to just also start if you don't want to go with the like the full package. Just start with the one project, and I think you're gonna love it from beginning, because just simply one command, and you don't have to struggle with FTPs and SSH and all this stuff. It's like it will all come for you. Yeah, so that's mostly it. I've seen it's like what, it's been an hour, so about, what was it, 20,000 more web pages in the web created.
That should be like a add-on to a stream somewhere. It's like a plugin that shows you at the end automatically how many new websites have been generated.
Yeah, but if, like, seriously, I'm really excited about it. I mean, I feel like this technology is really it's a great thing, and I just happened to be in South Africa a few weeks back for the conference, and I was there with talking to some schools who teach them coding. And if you think about it, like, what was the state of the technology a few years back, it was so difficult to even start coding. I mean, I remember when I was starting, I just I was like making the copy of the hard book from my older brother. It was on CC, and I remember like yesterday there was like a mistake in the book, and there was no YouTube, there was no a Stack Overflow, there was like literally nothing. The internet was just starting, and I just stopped there. I couldn't move on because of that. And now with things like Tailwind, like things like Bootstrap, it really enables people to do amazing stuff. And I think this is what is it all about, right? Just like trying to get obstacles out of your way so that you could focus on what's really important for you, right? You have idea for the app, just focus on that. You have idea for startup, just focus on that. And this is what is, I feel like, the Tailwind Elements it's all about, right? Tailwind is great, but you need extra time to build these components. So this is where Tailwind Elements is coming into picture.
Yep.
So you can just grab and combine and play with it, and here you go.
Yep. I talk about that a lot recently with the idea of AI. Like, people are will AI replace developer jobs and all these things? And the reality is, it's just another tool that changes the way we do development, but really it's an enabler that now gives us more time to spend in other places to build the things that we want to build, because they can help us do that, which is kind of the epitome of like developer experience as a whole. I'm actually giving a talk on AI and developer experience, so this whole topic is like very top of mind for me. But like the evolution every step of the way, any innovation that we have in developer experience, some people question, does this mean I don't have a job? Other people look at it as an opportunity to go and build more, faster, more efficiently, etc., than they did ever before.
Exactly. And I just read it today that I think today 60% of the people are working in the specialization which didn't exist 100 years before. So this is that's the reality. And I think my personal journey was from being scared at the very beginning about this whole AI stuff to now being really fascinated about what can do and how we can actually use it. And I think next week we are having our AI day at MDB, where we are trying to we have a dedicated day where we try to elevate the AI. So whatever task we have, we are just trying to use AI to make it for us or to help us with it. And it's so super exciting. I mean, that's yet another tool, at the same really amazing tool.
Yeah, agreed.
Actually, we also want to use ChatGPT or Copilot to migrate from JavaScript to TypeScript in Tailwind Elements. It could be very helpful and very fast with it. Also, we are thinking about unit tests because actually most of the components that we have in Tailwind have their unit test in our MDB. But now the code is not even similar, because we want to customize classes in nested components. We want to customize icons, for example. We want to add some new options. So it's actually a new component. So it should also be tested.
There's so many fun use cases. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, or just mention, kind of remind everyone, and this is, like we said at the very beginning, it's open source. It's still in beta. I think it's working great so far. It's going to get better. But if there is anyone who would like to just contribute, they are more than welcome. We really, being in this open source as a community for so many years, we see like really power in it, right? You have so many views, someone coming with the idea. People are great, they see the issue, and instead of just complaining about it, they're just saying, hey, you have a bug here, but by the way, I just wrote this, the bunch of code which is going to fix it, right? So this is amazing, and I think the project is really, really sexy, if you will. And yeah, I mean, so if whoever would like to contribute, just please visit our GitHub repository, and then you're gonna find a guide how to contribute to the project, so we can just make it faster, unless AI will do it for us. But let's see.
Until then,
what is worth to say? We have also our let's say workflow. In the past, we used the Trello to prepare tasks and to create our sprints. But now we move to GitHub project, so it's also public, and anyone can check our status for next releases, and also can contribute to what we are planning to do.
Yeah, looking at the WordPress, like you just said, 60% plus web pages running WordPress, and it's all community based, right? Like the WordPress Foundation and all this stuff. This is really, I feel like it's magic. It's the best proof of how community working together can do really amazing stuff. So yeah, that's us, I would say.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Thank you both for joining. I appreciate it. Seemed like everyone enjoyed it in the chat. If you have any follow-up questions, you can leave a comment on the YouTube video if you're on Twitch, or feel free to reach out. There's links in the description of the video too, if you want to go to the documentation and look for how to contribute or how to integrate into specific technology that you're using. But hopefully everyone enjoyed it. Thanks again for you two for joining and demoing.
Thank you.
Thank you, James, for having us. Hey, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks, everyone. We will talk to you later.